Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News, April 3rd, 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, a very important report has come out by the Canadian government. And the headline read, Canada is warming on average at a rate twice as fast as the rest of the world. Their federal Canadian government, in their climate report, warned that these changes are already evident in many parts of the country and are projected to intensify. Canada's Arctic has seen the deepest impacts, and it will continue to warm as more than double the global rate. The report also suggests that many of these effects are already seen and probably irreversible. Canada's average temperature has increased by an estimated 1.7 degrees Celsius, 3 degrees Fahrenheit since 1948. When national temperatures were first recorded. The largest temperature increases have been seen in the north, the prairies, and in the northern British Columbia area. Annual temperature in northern Canada has also increased by approximately 2.3 degrees. Now, folks within this report, naturally, they are blaming human activity, but other scientific reports over the years have stated that humans can only be possible for approximately 5% of global warming. And you say, okay, what are the effects? Well, the effects of global warming on Canada's environment include more extreme weather. Hotter temperatures could mean more heat waves and a higher risk of wildfires and droughts in some parts of the country. Oceans are expected to become more acidic and less oxygenated, which could definitely harm marine life. Parts of Canada's Arctic Ocean are projected to have extensive ice-free periods during the summer. They state within the next few decades. I truly believe that we will see this within a shorter period of time, possibly the next few years. Also, sea levels will rise, and this will bring an increase to coastal flooding, and more intense rainfall could cause problems with flooding in urban areas. You ask the big question, what caused Canada's warming? Canada's rapid warming is due to a number of factors, including a loss of snow and sea ice, which is increasing the absorption of solar radiation and causing larger surface warming than in other regions. This was according to their report. This part of the report I do definitely agree with. It also stated that despite the bleak projections, the report notes that the amount of warming could be limited if global action is taken drastically, and that would be reducing the carbon emissions to nearly zero. So, folks, that would mean the burning of fossil fuels, driving your vehicles, zero emissions. There's a lot more to this, folks, and I'm going to go ahead and get into some of this. And I'm going to show you some of the maps and the graphs that were put forth within this Canadian Global Climate Change Report. And this is very serious, and I've been talking about this now for quite some time. Going back to 2016 and 2017 and 2018, I was warning all of the Planet X News subscribers and followers and anyone who would listen. I stated that this would occur. However, I didn't think that this global warming was going to occur this fast. And I didn't think that we were going to see these drastic changes so quickly. But the fact of the matter is, the global warming is here. I know the reasons. We've discussed those reasons. And we're going to cover some of that. The chart that we're looking at now is sea level change in centimeters. You have your color chart right here. And as you can see, several locations where these measurements were taken in eastern Canada, leading all the way down into the eastern part of the United States, are all in the red and the orange, 75 to 150 to 75 centimeters of increase. The same applies over here for the west coast of Canada and the United States. This chart here is signifying ocean temperatures. Naturally, the color blue will signify cooler temperatures, but leading down through this strait between northern Canada and Greenland, you can see the increase in ocean temperatures both in the Atlantic and the Pacific. So these two oceans are warming significantly, and that will definitely, lead to more severe weather. This chart here is defining what is left of the old ice in the Arctic. Now, one period of time, folks, all of this was covered with old, thick ice. Now, they're only detecting that this portion right here in white is all that is left of the old ice. Now, naturally, this whole region freezes during the season change. However, that is what they refer to as young ice. It is very thin, and the albedo effect or the reflectivity effect is very, very minimal. Therefore, it does not reflect enough solar radiation from the North Pole, the Arctic. The situation's not getting any better. It's getting worse at a very drastic pace. This chart here is defining greenhouse effects. Number one, fluctuations in solar output change the amount of incoming solar radiation. The warming effect increases in solar radiation. Number two, changes in the albedo, the reflectivity of the Earth's atmosphere and surface, through changes in atmospheric aerosols, related changes in clouds, and the changes in land and ice cover affect the amount of solar radiation available for absorption. Yeah, I know that sounds real scientific and possibly quite confusing. But the decreases in that albedo, the decreases in that reflectivity, that allows the Earth to absorb more of this radiation from the sun, therefore heating up the Earth. Now we're moving very, very fast into this solar minimum, which means the sun's magnetic field is weakening. Therefore, the Earth's magnetic field is weakening. More solar radiation is going to get through. Without the reflectivity in the Arctic, the temperatures on Earth will increase. That much is a fact. Now, changes in the atmospheric global gases, global greenhouse gases, affect the emissions of infrared radiation, radiant heat. So the warming effects are increases in atmospheric greenhouse gases, which trap more heat within the Earth. So basically, folks, let's just break this down. You see the Earth's atmosphere up here in the light blue. These greenhouse gases will trap more heat between the top of the atmosphere and the bottom. Just to break it down in some layman's terms for you. So, one other factor. There's a lot of talk about carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. The fact of the matter is, and I mentioned this, the other day, With all of these forest fires that we've been having over the course of the last 3-4 years, they're actually getting worse. They talk about burning fossil fuels. Well, wood is a fossil fuel. These massive fires are emitting tons and tons of carbon dioxide straight up into the atmosphere. The increase in volcanic activity that we've seen since 2015 is also leading to the increases in carbon dioxide. So it's just not man's fault, folks. Like I said, that one detailed report by several scientists came to the conclusion that man could only be responsible for approximately 5% of global warming. The United States has cut back on carbon emissions 50%. A lot of the European countries have done the same. China is one of the only countries that really hasn't paid attention. But one country is not going to cause what is happening now. This chart was also within the report. This is the temperature change for Canada, and this goes all the way back to the year 1900. As you can see, it was kind of steady, and then on or about 2007, we saw the increase, and then you could see the steady increase as they take this all the way out to the year 2100. We will all be dead and gone by then, meaning us that are listening to this report now. What I was thinking about is right about this time in 2007 is when I made one of the most crucial detections of Planet X orbiting our sun. I captured it on stereo B. So this kind of makes me think, once again, all of the planets in the solar system were heating up many, many years ago. Scientific and astronomical reports prove that. As time went on, and as Planet X made its way through our solar system, it heated up every single planet. It made its way to the sun. The sun has now captured it. It is part of our inner solar system. And now the Earth is feeling those warming effects. But there are many other causes. This solar minimum that we're coming into, we couldn't be coming into this at the worst possible time. But again, there's nothing that we can do about that. We're just going to have to buckle down and see where we go from here. This is another chart that was in the report, and this is showing you the warming effects for the country of Canada. The lighter yellows will be less of an increase, the darker oranges and reds more of an increase in temperature. Leading up to the edge over here would be the state of Alaska. And just the other day, Alaska reported a record-breaking high temperature according to the time of year, putting it at 50 degrees. I think that was on April 1st. And it wasn't any type of April Fool's joke. So, global warming affecting Alaska is going to do a lot of damage. I read a report yesterday about the permafrost already melted, not melting, melted in certain parts of Alaska and the northwestern tier of Canada. This is a simple photograph that shows you going back from 1979 to 2007. This was the old ice. This is what the albedo is, the reflectivity. You can see the amount of it was already decreasing in 1979. Leading into 2007, you can see the drastic decrease in this old ice. Now, in 2019, this has shrunk down to an area about right here. Now, once again, naturally, thin ice forms during the winter, but that thin ice does not have the reflectivity as the older, ancient, thicker ice that is now gone. Now, this photograph here was, again, also in the report, and you can see just based on color the hot regions where temperatures are increasing drastically. You can see the entire United States, all of Mexico, Central America, and 2/3 of South America. Some of the hottest zones on the planet, the northern tier of Africa, and over here in the Middle East. You can see here, folks, this line of the lighter orange color and the yellow. You know, normally these are cooler regions of the world, but you can see these temperatures are rising. This will be very, very strange for folks that live in Norway and Sweden and Finland and through the upper areas of Russia and northern parts of Europe. You can see the temperature changes here in northern India, also in the entire South Pacific, and also in Australia. Now, when the seasons change and Australia is in their summertime, this whole country down under will look like this. And they're going to have temperatures that are going to swing from cold to very, very hot. There's almost not going to be any in between. Over the last couple of years, we've already seen these massive heat waves and extreme heat in Australia. But again, folks, it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. With this extreme heat and the oceans heating, well, you're going to have the more extreme cyclones, typhoons, and over in the Atlantic, hurricanes. I think this year, over here in the Gulf of Mexico, it's just my prediction. I don't think we're going to see that much of an increase in activity in dangerous storms in the Atlantic, hurricanes. I think it's going to come from the southern Caribbean area and up into the Gulf of Mexico, and possibly even the South Pacific. That's just what I'm seeing based on the jet stream patterns and these very, very warm bodies of water. Now, jumping over to the Solar Dynamics Observatory's view of the sun. This is the 48-hour loop from April 1st through the 3rd. And as you can see, folks, very large coronal holes opening up. The solar wind will be streaming from these coronal holes and heading towards Earth. Once again, these impacts of the solar wind, they've been relatively slow, anywhere between 350 and 500 kilometers per second. Normally, we would see much, much faster rates with the solar wind, but as of lately, over the last several months, the solar wind has been kind of slow, kind of moderate. These heavily charged particles that come from the coronal holes impact our Earth. They're also responsible for the very pretty northern lights, the aurora borealis, geomagnetic storms. But folks, because the Earth's magnetic field is slowly weakening, these heavily charged particles now make their way all the way to the center of the Earth, therefore inducing more seismic activity, aka earthquakes, and volcanic activity. Mexico's largest volcano is going off now. They registered over 20 eruptions just in the course of the last week. Once again, releasing all of those gases into the Earth's atmosphere, time and time again. Over the last couple of years, we've seen on an average anywhere from 20 to 30 volcanoes erupting at one time on the Earth. And since 2016, we've seen this continual pattern of these coronal holes opening Earth-facing. If you look on the backside of the sun, which unfortunately we can't because the Stereo B spacecraft has since been out of operation for a number of years, as they say. I don't believe them, but that's what NASA says. But the Earth is located about right here where my cursor is. And as you can see, it is dead on with this solar wind. So this has been something that's been constant, non-stop. If you ask yourself, why are we seeing the increase in earthquake activity? Well, the Earth's core is heating up. Therefore, that pressure release, it has to go somewhere. And we see it in the form of earthquakes and volcanoes. Now, getting into some Planet X news, we had another detection during a coronal mass ejection. I captured this on March 20th, 2019. And again, folks, you can see the object very, very close to the sun. I do believe this smaller object right here is possibly another smaller body. Again, folks, some of the resolution on these models, they've made the resolution much, much lower. Well, they've been doing that now for, well, probably the last 2 years. Before, resolution on some of these models was much better. We were able to get clearer views. But like I've said before, we've actually shown the powers that be how we make our finds. But there's not too much they can do to scrub all of the information. I want to state this also, folks. You know, I'm not trying to be arrogant, and I'm not trying to act like I know it all. And I've read some of your comments, and I've been doing this for a very, very long time. Very, very long time. I'm heading into 25 years of this Planet X research and investigation. I've read everyone's theories. I've seen everyone's models. I've seen all of the evidence. I've delved into the biblical scriptures. I've investigated Gil Broussard's theories, Marshall Masters' theories, Zachariah Sitchin, Robert Harrington, Carlos Ferrata, and Herberculus. But the fact of the matter is, folks, I mean, I really hate to say it, and some of you may think that, you know, I'm acting like a Mr. Know-It-All. But here are the facts. all of the people that I've mentioned now, all of their calculations, all of their theories are out the door. They say that this object comes in and goes out, and it goes bye-bye. Leaves the Earth in somewhat of total destruction. I first detected this object back in 2007, was when I got my first clear view of it coming in and making a quick loop around the sun. It was captured on Stereo B in 2007. I will also show you a photograph on the cactus from 2007 showing you this object peeking around the left side of the sun, and we'll get to that shortly. I've also put together what I feel is the best orbital path of this object. It is now part of our solar system. This object, ladies and gentlemen, cannot be found in the Bible. As I have stated many times, and I will repeat myself once again, listen to me very carefully. Throughout millions of years, even billions of years, there is no doubt that the Earth has come in contact with other stellar objects, other planetary objects coming through our solar system or getting very near the Earth. Ancient Chinese writings 6,000 years ago talk about it. Those ancient people wrote it down. Biblical times, the same thing applies. Something occurred in those biblical times that created catastrophes worldwide, as far as we know. But can we say, without a doubt, that it was this object that you see on your screen now that has only been detected coming into our solar system as early as 2007? And it did not cause worldwide destruction. So therefore, predictions made by Gil Broussard, which I'm going to do a complete live stream possibly later today or tomorrow, and I'm going to show you all of the miscalculations, and I'm going to show you how those theories were wrong. Because this object is here, it is here to stay, and I've been detecting it orbiting the sun since 2007. Some of my best captures were, late in 2016, 17, and 18, and also this year. So once again, the theory of this object coming in and looping around the sun and heading back out, well, they're wrong. They have to be wrong because the object is still here and wreaking havoc on the sun, and in turn causing all of these problems here on Earth. Now, getting back to the early detections in 2007, as you can see on the photograph from the Cactus program, you can see very clearly this object peeking out behind the left side of the sun, and this would be an Earth-facing view. That object is very large, estimated, well, maybe 7 times the size of Jupiter. It's still kind of hard to say. But if we are detecting this object as early as 2007, and as late as March 20th, 2019, well, then that just says one thing: that all of the past models and theories and predictions were wrong. You know, folks, I only like to deal in observational facts. I know a lot of you want to believe in biblical prophecy and what has been written down thousands of years ago. And that's all fine and dandy. But I want to deal in facts. And what we're seeing now is what we saw back in 2007. See, we weren't having all of these global catastrophes back in 2005 and 2000 and in the 90s and in the 80s and in the 70s. You know, the Earth had, their normal earthquakes and the normal volcanic activity. And what I mean by normal, we've seen this dramatic increase since 2007. Why? Why did we see that increase? Now knowing, based on scientific evidence that goes back many, many years, I think about maybe close to 15 to 20 years ago, and going back all the way into the 1930s with renowned astronomer Percival Lowell detecting perturbations in the orbits of some of the outer planets, all of the planets have since heated up. NASA has detected all of this. David Wilcock did a fantastic 3-hour seminar showing all of the evidence that each and every planet, from Pluto all the way to the inner solar system, all of the planets have heated up. And so has the Earth. And the Earth is still heating up. We just talked about it earlier in this presentation. That will be a continuous pattern. So this object has not come in and made breakaway speed and flung itself out of the solar system like a hypervelocity star or planet. All of the information that Nancy Lieder has put out over the years has been completely wrong. So if you are interested in keeping up with facts based on observational evidence and science and what we detect, then you'll stick around here at Planet X News and you will follow the information as we find it. But I can't bring myself to say that all of these other theories are correct, because they name too many different objects. Nibiru, Arberculus, Nemesis, Planet X. The fact of the matter is, folks, a very strange and large object has made its way into our solar system. It has been captured by our sun. And I've mentioned before, if you just read up and do some research on the dynamics of stars, the dynamics of brown dwarf stars, if you start to read up and you start to delve into that science, you'll completely understand what I mean by the sun has captured this object. The same thing applies, say for instance, for the planet Jupiter. Look how many moons, as they call them, look how many moons that Jupiter has captured. That number just keeps on increasing. And then you ask yourself, well, where did those objects come from? Did they come from Gil Broussard's theory? Did they come from Marshall Masters' theory? Did they come from Carlos Ferrada's theory? Nobody truly knows. But we need to concentrate on what is happening now and what we are detecting near the sun. So if I have been detecting this object since 2007 in the same orbital patterns around the sun, all the way up till this year, well, what does that tell you? That object came in and it never left. There is no debris trail that is 1,000,000 miles long. I believe that was disinformation, all related to this Nibiru theory that was put out there many years ago. It really got people started. It got me started. I investigated it. I researched it. I put every ounce of brain power into it and understanding it and picking it apart. And that's just the way that I am. I'm just a very analytical person. Some people say it's arrogance. I disagree. I'm just very analytical. I want answers. And folks, you don't come to my YouTube channel for entertainment. You come here to get the truth, and you come here to see what I have found. Not a popularity contest. I like to deal in facts. I base those facts on observational evidence. What I myself have gathered, not somebody else. Because I can't vet somebody else's information, and I can't vet somebody else's photographs, especially nowadays with computer technology and programs. So please understand that. I'm not an arrogant person. I am just confident in my evidence and what I show each and every one of you. That is my responsibility. That is the task that I took on. So I'm going to show you folks, for everybody who hasn't seen the Stereo B footage from 2007, it's quite amazing. Let's take a look at it. Now, during this time frame, folks, this goes back to February 20th, 2007. This is 1 month later after the photograph that you just observed from January of 2007, the cactus photograph that we just reviewed. Now, this is a video recording from the Stereo Behind Core 2 spacecraft, which has since been disabled. It's been disabled now for many years. This gives us a different perspective of the sun, and we still have Stereo A, which means ahead. That spacecraft is still active, but again, that gives us a different perspective, a different view. I think one of the main reasons why they took Stereo B behind out of commission is because of this reason that you're about to see on your screen now. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Now, as you're going to see, this object is going to come in. It's going to come in very quickly, but again, this is time-lapsed. It's going to make its way, looping around the back side of the sun, which at that point, that would have been Earth-facing. Okay, so this view is not Earth-facing. Okay, this is, I believe, in the L1 position off to the right of the Earth. And you can see it loops around and then it makes its way back out. So it enters into the camera's view on the 20th. And as you can see, the date stamp on the bottom takes several days and it makes its way back out. So you're looking at about approximately 8 days. Now, I believe that this orbital pattern that that we're looking at now is now approximately 28 days. I believe now that it is much, much closer to the sun. It has gotten sucked in very, very close to the sun, to the point where it is legitimately within the sun's corona as it passes at its closest point in its eccentric orbit. And this is absolutely just incredible footage. Now, there was a New York Times investigative reporter that also found this information, and she publicized it. And she continued to publicize it, all the way to the point where she created a website and she was showing this information. She was disguising her name and her identity, but that was soon found out. And from what I understand, there were a lot of attempts to take the information down off of the internet. That was successful. And then finally, somebody got to her. I don't know if they delivered threats and told her to back off, stop using her ability as a New York Times reporter to put this word out, to show this information. And from that point, she disappeared from the spotlight. But she still is a New York Times investigative reporter. Not going to mention her name. I do know her name, but I'm not going to mention it because she is now out of the loop and has been for a long time. But as you can see here, this is the stereo behind Core 1. You can see this object coming in. You can see the reaction that the sun has right there. You can see the reaction as the sun gets, as this object gets very, very close to the sun, therefore creating those coronal mass ejections. And once again, this is just looping. It's showing you everything all over again. So these were the earliest detections of our so-called Planet X object, this stellar core object, this unknown object. I mean, I really wish we knew and had, like a compositional makeup of what this object consists of. But obviously, it's a very powerful object. I'm sure that it has a pretty intense magnetic field. I'm pretty sure that by now it's definitely feeding off of the sun. And it's also creating some situations on the sun. We've been seeing it. Now that the sun is dipping into that solar minimum, we will probably see a dramatic decrease in coronal mass ejections. However, whenever we do see those coronal mass ejections, if they happen to be Earth-facing, well, things here on Earth are going to be much more dramatic, because as the sun's magnetic field decreases, so does the Earth's magnetic field, therefore creating much more exposure to our planet and each and every one of us. But that is just something that we will have to wait and see. I'm sure that over the course of the next 11 to 15 years of this solar minimum, I'm sure we're going to see more coronal mass ejections. And I'm sure we're going to make more detections, more observational evidence will come out. Many people ask me, why doesn't the government just come out and tell us about this? Well, why doesn't the government just come out and tell us that there's extraterrestrial life out there beyond human beings? That UFOs are real? That they've inhabited the earth for hundreds of thousands of years before mankind? Why don't they tell us all of that? I guess they think that we wouldn't be able to handle it. My theory is, like I've said before, they don't want to lose control. Religions around the world would not want to lose control over their people. The governments of the world would not like to see people panic. I'm sure that if you turned on your television and you were watching any of the mainstream media news outlets, and NASA and the European Space Agency held a huge press conference, and they were showing ultra high definition video and observational evidence, and talking about this new stellar object that's now a permanent fixture in our solar system. I'm sure if they went on national and worldwide television and they disclosed all of this, I'm pretty sure that people around the world would freak the hell out. People would probably panic. And that's one of the main reasons why they, censor my YouTube channel so much and not other channels. I just watched a video the other day from some small channel putting out some old Nibiru information from like 10 years ago. And it was like some type of radio broadcast, and they dubbed in the voices over some pictures, and the video was uploaded onto YouTube like 3 days ago, and it had over 560,000 views. 560,000 views. And this was from just a little personal YouTube channel. I think the person has I think it was either 29 or 39 subscribers, which are probably family members. Because some of the other videos on that channel, it was the guy in his yard playing with his dog, some nature videos, a fishing video, catching some fish. And then I guess he just decided to, compile some video clips and put together this Planet X Nibiru video, and he uploaded it to his channel. You won't see any more. You won't see no 500 to 1 million views on any of my videos anymore. That's a fact. That's why I've gone to my private network, our new Planet X News private network on Subscribestar. It's going very, very well. I've had so many people emailing me and messaging me with just pure thanks for what I've done. Even though, the monthly memberships are $5 for the limited access and $10 a month for the full access, I'm not censored. I can get on there and I can show you things and report on things that I can't on YouTube. And I sure as hell can't do it on Facebook. So for any of you that can afford the $10 a month, and I would recommend the full access, Dr. Elbers and I are going to be doing bigger things on our new network. There are no trolls. There are no people there to harass you. You can view the information whenever you feel like it. I'm going to be giving access to video information that none of you have ever seen before. It's all going to be right there on our private network. Watches and alerts that deal with weather and our climate, It's all going to be right there, folks, like it is right now, each and every day. I just don't do one post. Well, there's quite a few that go up every single day. And I've been mentioning for years, I want to get away from YouTube because of the censorship. They don't want you to see what you're seeing now. And I know none of you are panicking because you've been listening to me and you've been listening to Dr. Elbers for some time now. You are truly the awakened people. Based on that fact, you being part of this network, you being awakened to all of this information, like I've said before, it's now all of our responsibilities to get out there and help others. Help them understand what is happening. And then we can all deal with this together. But I don't think we will ever see this hit mainstream media on CBS or NBC or the BBC or Fox News or the crap news network CNN. I don't think we'll ever see this legitimately put out there in mainstream media. I just don't think it's going to happen. So therefore, we have to move to more of an underground type of information source. Maybe that's what I'll nickname it. Planet X News Underground. Since I've started this new private network, it's worked out very, very well. It's worked out well for a lot of people. Some people were critical of it. Most weren't. I will stay on YouTube as much as I can. But I've had now to limit what I show on Facebook. I don't even bother, excuse me, I don't even bother with Twitter. But the fact of the matter is, folks, there's a lot of people out there within these social media groups that are putting out bad information just to attract your attention. That's it. They really don't show you any scientific evidence. They talk about old junk from 5 and 10 years ago and 15 years ago, possibly even longer than that. You show me one YouTube channel that has produced better observational evidence than what I have detected and captured, and that includes Dr. Elbers and all of her scientific reports. Some of you may not agree with all of them, but that's your prerogative. Just by looking at your screen right now, you say to yourself, wow, what the hell was that? I had one other amateur astronomer YouTuber back several years ago tell me that this was the moon, our moon. You know, that gray ball in the sky. Mathematically, it's impossible. But they made a big stink about it for a whole year. It was the moon. The moon passing behind the sun. Oh, it's all trickery. I don't think so, folks. Take into consideration that not too long after this footage was revealed, that NASA took the Stereo B spacecraft out of commission. They made up a story. They said that it was going into some type of a spin. It was out of control. Things malfunctioned, and they no longer have control over it. and it's no longer transmitting data. Do I believe that? No, I do not. Because they built two identical spacecrafts at the same time, Stereo B and Stereo A. They're both in different positions, but one failed. But it only failed after this footage. And the Stereo B, which means behind, maybe that would have been giving us a much better view of what we call Planet X. And that's what I mean, folks, about me being very, very analytical. I try to put 2 and 2 together, and I try to come up with 4. I like to deal in facts, not make-believe. And when I talk about the biblical prophecy, biblical scripture, I'm not knocking anybody. We just don't have any proof of that. Those things probably happened back then. There may be similarities to what is happening now, but there are way too many differences. And I do agree that throughout all of these thousands and tens of thousands of years, there have probably been other objects, interstellar objects, that have come in to our solar system and wreaked havoc. And that will continue for all eternity. It's just the way that outer space works. And there is still the huge factor of the unknown. Humanity doesn't know everything about outer space, our solar system. Hell, we don't know everything about our own planet. But I do know this much, folks. Based on all these years of reading and researching, monitoring, investigating, I've only come to one conclusion after all of this, and that is that object has been captured by our sun. It is now a fixture within our inner solar system. It has a very acute orbital pattern with the sun within side of the orbit of Mercury. All of the evidence points to that direction. If somebody can prove me wrong, I would love to hear your theory, but please bring me hardcore evidence. Because that's exactly what you get right here on Planet X News. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Join up on our private Planet X News network. The link is in the description box below the video. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or inbox me, and we'll go from there. Be safe, folks. Keep an eye in the sky and watch your weather. This is Scott from Planet X News. Thank you for watching.